Hey guys, I'm going to be responding to a video by a transgender named Ashley Wild, and I'm actually sort of surprised I haven't responded to a lot of her videos, because she seems to be one of the original transgenders, like she invented the gender tag and all of that. So this video is called Life as a Non-Binary Adult, so yeah, let's just get right into it.
Happy Halloween, everyone! You might like to know that I dressed up as another YouTuber, Miranda Sings. Today, on the Gender Resources playlist, I want to address the question of what is it like to live my life as a non-binary adult? And the reason the question is phrased that way is because there's a certain stigma that non-binary individuals are all teenagers and that they're going through a phase.
Well, consider they're not all teenagers, but it seems like a lot of them are going through a phase, especially since there's no evidence for any of this non-binary stuff, and it's only a newly created concept.
So I'm coming at this video as someone who's an adult with a car loan to prove it and who has identified as non-binary for 6 years. There are definitely people who have identified as non-binary longer than I have, but 6 years is a decent chunk of time.
How does this prove anything or have any significance at all? Because you're talking about identifying as non-binary for a number of years. That there implies that you chose to identify that way, and that's the thing. These people always compare their non-binary identity as being transgender, or to being just as valid as being a male or a female, when really it's just identity. That's all it is. It's not what your brain actually is, and this is the thing that really annoys me. People always conflate gender and gender identity.
As human beings, we struggle with in-betweens. We think best in definites. We like things that are easily distinguishable as black and white.
It has nothing to do with the fact that there are only two genders. That's not something that people have tried to distinguish. That is something that is rooted in biology. There are only two sexes, so therefore there can only be two genders. That's just what biology shows. There could be such a thing as non-binary brains, but even then those wouldn't be a third gender or anything. And it would surely be a lot more rare than people are claiming it is.
For this reason, people who fall in between any two categories often face a lot of difficulty socially. An example that comes to mind is bisexuality. People inside the LGBTQ community are guilty of extreme biphobia in a lot of cases.
Oh, you're already going after the LGBT community, aren't you? What is with this whole LGBT community eating itself stuff? It just really seems counterproductive.
Asserting that bisexuality is a phase invalidates the experience of people who identify as bisexual.
I can understand that if you're telling somebody who's bisexual it's just a phase, that is kind of quote-unquote biphobic. I hate to use that term. But who says that? Like, who thinks that bisexuality is a phase, honestly? The whole point of the LGBT community is that it includes bisexuals. How do you understand that?
That's how it is with a non-binary gender. Just because you don't understand what it feels like to be me doesn't mean that I'm somehow between identities, that I'm confused or unsure. As a matter of fact, I know exactly who I am.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about her. First of all, she just compared being bisexual to being non-binary. I mean, the difference there is that there's more evidence for bisexuality than there is for non-binary, A. B, bisexuality isn't any kind of in-between. It's just another sexuality. That's the difference. It's not like, oh, I'm in between straight and gay. Nobody says that who's bisexual. Or what are you even talking about? It's not like there's any biological precedent indicating that there are only two sexualities or something. No, but there is biological evidence including that there are only two genders. And then you said, oh, people shouldn't think that I'm confused. I know who I am. Even though a lot of these people claim to switch genders all the time. I mean, I don't know if she does, but still, look, you do understand where that assertion comes from, right? Because people are like, oh, I wake up one day and now I'm a female. I wake up another day and now I'm a male. How does that not sound confused?
And it just happens that a component of who I am is that I'm a gender non-binary individual. Ariel Scarcella posted a video recently where she asserted that there are only two genders, that true trans people fit into one of the two binary genders, and that people who are non-binary are actually a man with feminine tendencies or a woman with masculine tendencies, as opposed to people who have the experience of a non-binary gender identity.
Ariel Scarcella got so much flack for just stating something that's true, that's proven by scientific evidence. Even if non-binary does exist, there are still only two genders, just like there are only two sexes. Like, why is this not clicking in people's brains? And people are all butthurt about it. Like, oh my god, she only said there are two genders. She's a traitor to the LGBT community. Like, no, she just doesn't believe in all this nonsense you've been spewing. And furthermore, you talk about people having the experience of a non-binary gender identity. Like, that's supposed to mean anything. That literally means nothing. Like, what is that even supposed to mean? That's so vague. And you even admitted it's a non-binary gender identity. It's not a non-binary gender. It's just your identity. There's no proof for it. In reality, your identity does not equal reality. And like I said, I'm not saying that there couldn't be evidence for non-binary brain someday, but even that wouldn't be a third gender.
I don't want to dwell on this too much because I think that in large part, this video was made as kind of a let's try to get people riled up. But there is something that comes up for me, and that is the idea that what Ariel was saying is in no way revolutionary. Actually, it's the easiest possible thing to say with regard to gender.
No, it's actually not. In the majority of the LGBT community now, everybody's like, oh, there are so many different genders. I mean, yeah, maybe it's the easiest thing to say for somebody who's not brainwashed in all SJW stuff, but believe me, there's a reason people have been making videos like Ariel's. It's because the SJW philosophy has become so popular and people are just sick of it. And they know it's not true.
Because our entire cultural narrative of people who have never had to interrogate their cisgender identity will stand behind you and cheer you on.
You're assuming things about quote-unquote cis people. You're saying, oh, they've never had to go through any struggles in their life. But I totally have because I identify as some weird gender amalgamation.
What is it like to live life as a non-binary adult? Well, it's like having your own personal Ariel Scarcella in your back pocket everywhere you go. People say what she said, and they say it to you. Or in front of you. They say it even if they're members of your family.
Acting like this is the most insulting thing people can ever say. No, it's true. It's true. There are only two genders. Get over it. It's true. Okay? You're like, oh my god, my feelings are so hurt because I think I'm a third gender. Well, I don't care what you think. That's not the truth.
Even if there's someone you're in a relationship with. People invalidate non-binary genders left and right every single day. What Ariel did was make it loud. She seems to be more concerned with being loud than being right. Or with being loud than being sensitive.
Why do you care about whether she's sensitive or not? That has nothing to do with the truth. That has absolutely nothing to do with the truth. And she was right. She was. Why can't you accept that? Why can't you accept that there's no evidence for any of this non-binary stuff? And the reason why people identify as non-binary is because they don't conform to gender roles. And even if there was evidence for that, there's still two genders that wouldn't be a third gender. Like, why can't you just accept that? I don't care how much it hurts your feelings. Aren't you concerned with the truth?
I think there are a lot of eloquent conversations going on about this, namely a reaction video posted by Chase of Uppercase Chase. I'll link to that below.
And I responded to that video, and it was an awful video, and then Chase Ross just totally was... I don't even want to get into drama. Yeah, let's move on. Like, the people are looking up his video like, oh, it's so great. No, it was an awful video. It was so bad.
But for me, it's par for the course. I don't personally need my gender identity validated by others. Least of all by someone who doesn't know anything about the experience of being a trans person or a non-binary individual.
Again, you're making assumptions about people. And then you're saying like, oh, I don't need anybody to validate my identity. Then why are you making this video? Why do you care? And again, you're assuming the experiences of people who are different from you, which sounds kind of bigoted. You're assuming that anybody who identifies as quote-unquote cisgender has no idea what it's like to be trans, even if they have a lot of trans friends who look at all this ridiculous stuff and they think it's just so bad for the trans community. What if that person knows a lot of trans people who hate that stuff? Are those trans people that they know, like, not real trans people then?
But that doesn't mean I don't exist. It doesn't mean that my experiences aren't real. And it doesn't mean that I haven't spent the last 6 years of my life trying to construct relationships, jobs, and housing situations that allow me to feel comfortable with who I am.
We're not denying that. You clearly exist. We're not saying that your experiences are somehow invalid. We're just saying that they don't amount up to you being some kind of a third gender. Like, you can identify however you want, but once you start saying, I'm trans and I'm special and everybody should accept me and I'm so oppressed, that's when it gets really annoying.
Why would I bother if this wasn't my identity? Non-binary is not some transitional phase for me. It is just where my gender naturally exists, and that is absolutely okay.
But where's the evidence for that? Where's the evidence that's your actual gender, that you're not just a masculine woman? I mean, how can you transition to non-binary? That's the thing. That's why it's not as valid as being trans, because you can't transition to non-binary.
For those of you who felt invalidated or attacked by the recent conversations.
Oh my god, non-binary people are being attacked. Like, these people go from 0 to 100 so fast. No, just because somebody says there are only two genders is not the same as being physically attacked. Don't compare the two.
Against non-binary people, I support you, and I'm sorry that that has been your experience.
Oh, look at the virtue signaling here. I'm so virtuous. I believe in all of the crazy made-up genders.
Your gender is valid because it's yours.
Okay, but where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? How do you know that gender is valid?
I support and affirm you, and I'm going to continue to make educational videos because conversations against trans and non-binary people happen often enough. We need to be able to have this kind of conversation more often.
Stop grouping in people who identify as non-binary with people who are actually trans. Stop it.
This video topic was actually suggested by one of my patrons on Patreon.
Okay, then she kind of goes into her outro and stuff, and we don't really need to see the last few seconds of videos, but yeah. Ashley Wilde is one of those people who claims that non-binary people are in the same group as trans people, and it really bugs me. It really irritates me. So, yeah, I guess that was my response to the video. Again, you know, people are freaking out over the whole two genders thing, and it's like, it's not such a big deal. There are only two genders. There are only two genders. I don't care what you identify as. There are only two genders. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.